Cheddar Man's face was rebuilt from a bone hidden behind his ear. In 2018, a team at the Natural History Museum found enough DNA in that dense bone to predict a rare mix of traits. He most likely had dark to black skin, pale eyes, and dark hair. But the face is only the famous part. The same DNA points to a much larger break in Britain's story. It also shows why. The claim that Cheddar Man's descendant still lives down the road goes too far. To see what this one skeleton changed, we need to pull apart 3 layers. First, there is the man found in the cave. Then there is the face built by artists. And last, there is the tale of whole groups of people, written in their genes. The smallest bone in this story led to the biggest change. Cheddar Man was found in 1903. Workers were fixing drains in Gough's cave, a visitor site in Somerset, when they uncovered most of a human skeleton. At first, the claims ran far ahead of the facts. Some reports called him the first Englishman. They said he was 40, 60, or even 80,000 years old. Later tests gave a sound date. He had lived about 10,000 years ago, in the Middle Stone Age. That still makes him the oldest nearly complete skeleton of our species found in Britain. But he was not Britain's first human, and he could not found a nation that did not yet exist. What happened when the cave gave him back? The bones tell us that he stood about 5 feet 5 inches tall. He died in his 20s. At that time, Britain was still joined to Europe by land. Woods spread across a land that was growing warm after the Ice Age. People hunted deer and large wild cattle called aurochs. They caught fish and gathered nuts and seeds. They did not farm, but their lives were not simple. The place where Cheddar Man died was also odd. Many other remains from this time were found in cave graves used by groups. At Aveline's Hole, about a mile away, the bones of roughly 50 people were found. Cheddar Man seems to have been alone. We do not know why. He may have been laid there with care. He may have died there and been covered by cave mud and stone over time. Early digs also threw away bones and tools from the cave. That lost proof might have helped us read the scene. For more than 100 years, the skeleton could tell us his age, size, and form. It could not tell us the mix of traits that would make his face known around the press world. That clue was sealed inside his skull. DNA starts to break down as soon as a body dies. Heat, water, germs, and time cut it into smaller and smaller bits. After 10,000 years in a mild, wet land, useful DNA is hard to find. Gough's cave gave the team some help. It stayed cool. Layers of stone formed over the bones and gave them some cover. The team also chose the best place to sample. They drilled into the petrous bone. It sits deep in the skull, near the inner ear. It is the hardest and most dense bone in the human body. That does not make it a magic safe. A test can still fail, but this hard shell can guard more DNA than many other bones. Imagine trying to know a person from a box of torn words. The team did not find one whole genome ready to read. They found millions of tiny bits. A method called shotgun sequencing helped place those bits against a modern safe human genome. It showed where each part might fit. Some lines came back almost whole. Others had gaps. The team also had to know what to look for. A pile of DNA bits means little until you ask a clear question. For Cheddar Man, the team looked at spots in DNA tied to visible traits in people. Today, those spots could narrow the range of likely skin tone, eye color, and hair color. They could make a forecast. They could not take a photo. The team used a tool made for work in crime labs. It placed Cheddar Man's skin in the 2 darkest of 5 bands used by the tool. The museum called those bands dark and dark to black. It also ruled out the lightest bands. Other parts of his DNA point to pale eyes, most likely blue or green. His hair was most likely dark. Here is the catch. A forecast can cut down the range without ending all doubt. To many people today, this mix of traits seems strange. We are used to seeing some traits grouped together. We can start to think those groups are fixed and have always looked the same. They have not. The genes that shape skin, eyes, and hair each have their own past. Their rates changed as people moved and mixed. They also changed as some traits helped people live in a new place. Pale eyes show up in old European DNA before pale skin became common in much of Northwest Europe. Cheddar Man was not a strange break from an old rule. The rule was one that we had made up from the faces we see now. The museum team knew of people with a like mix of traits from Spain, Luxembourg, and Hungary. All were part of a broad group now called Western European hunter-gatherers. And then, one British genome joined those points on the map. That name does not mean they were one tribe. It is a label for shared roots found in their DNA. So the likely tone of Cheddar Man's skin did not shock the team. The key result was that a man from Britain fit the same broad pattern. But genes for color cannot tell an artist the exact curve of a lip. They do not give the full shape of a nose, the weight of a cheek, or the way a man wore his hair. They cannot tell us the look on his face. For that, the team had to build a face from more than DNA. The artists began with the real skull. They scanned it, took its size, and printed a three-dimensional base. The skull sets firm limits. The eye sockets, cheekbones, jaw, and shape of the skull. Face cannot be moved at will. Next came guides for the depth of flesh on a human face. These marks help artists turn bone into a likely outer shape. The DNA then added likely skin tone, eye color, and hair color. Other choices were less firm. How long was his hair? What was the exact shape of the soft parts of his face? What look would make the model seem like a man and not a blank test head? And then the last layer changed how the whole face felt. The artists had to turn a set of limits into a person we feel we could meet. The Natural History Museum put it in clear terms. A face built this way is part science and part art. That does not mean the face was made up. It means each part rests on a different kind of proof. The skull sets the core shape. DNA narrows some traits. Data on flesh depth helps fill the gaps. The artists make the last set of choices. This is the fair way to see any face built from the deep past. It is not a photo. It is an idea based on proof, made so that we can look at it. When all those layers blend into one head, the doubt can vanish from view. We see a face, and the face feels like a fact. Pull the layers apart, and the story gets better. Cheddar Man's face is the part most people know. It is not the result that changed Britain's past the most. For that, we must move from one skull to scores of old genomes. Cheddar Man came from people whose roots spread through West Europe after the Ice Age. Their lives were local. They lived in small groups, in many lands, with their own ways and ties. The broad pattern only shows up when we compare their DNA. Picture those old genomes as points of light. One face can seem strange. The same pattern in several lands becomes part of human history. Cheddar Man's likely looks were not a one-man oddity. They showed a Europe where the mix of traits we know today had not yet formed in the same way. Europe was not all the same, even then. People in parts of the north and west of Asia already had genes tied to lighter skin. There was no single color map for the whole region. Later, genes tied to pale skin grew more common through more than one wave of people. Early farmers brought some of them. Much later, herders with roots north of the Black and Caspian Seas brought more. The low light of the north may also have helped pale skin spread over time, since it can help the body make vitamin D. The point is not to swap one fixed image for a new one. The point is that looks have a past. The groups that seem clear to us now are the short-term result of people who moved, mixed, and changed. Then, about 6,000 years ago, the DNA in Britain changed on a far larger scale. Farming came to the island. The best proof says that farmers came with it. For years, experts argued over how farming reached Britain. Did local hunters learn to grow crops and keep stock from people across the sea? Or did farming spread because whole groups of farmers moved in? A pot can move without a family. A new tool can be copied. A way to bury the dead can be learned. Old objects alone could not end the debate. DNA gave the question a new test. In 2019, a team led by the Natural History Museum shared DNA from 6 people who lived by hunting and gathering. They set it beside DNA from 67 people who lived after farming began. The bones ranged from about 8,500 to 2,500 BC. What happened when the new tools and the new genes arrived at the same time? The result points strongly to a move of people. The first farmers in Britain got most of their roots from farming groups on the mainland of Europe. Far back in time, those roots led toward the Aegean and lands near it. As the farmers moved west through Europe, they mixed with local hunters. By the time some of their kin crossed to Britain around 4000 BC, they already held a small share of Western hunter-gatherer roots, but they were still quite unlike the older group in Britain, the group shown by Cheddar Man. The study found only small and uneven signs of more mixing with Britain's local hunters. Some farming groups had more of those roots than others. The main pattern was still a large change in who lived on the island. That needs care. It does not mean every hunter died at once. It does not mean no hunter ever joined a farming group. We have DNA from only a small share of all the people who lived. The genes show a change across whole groups. They cannot tell us the tale of each meeting. Still, the change is too large to fit the idea that local people just learned to farm. The people changed along with the way of life. The study also found no clear rise of hunter roots later in Britain's Stone Age, as has been seen in some parts of Europe. This is the larger break that the famous face can hide. Cheddar Man does not prove one straight line from the first people after the ice age to people in Britain now. His DNA marks one layer in a past, shaped again, and again by people on the move. That brings us to the neatest and weakest, ending in the tale most people heard. Years before the full study of his DNA, a famous news story linked Cheddar Man to a teacher who lived near the cave. The two men were said to share a type of mitochondrial DNA. News reports turned that match into a much sharper claim. They called the teacher a direct descendant who lived just down the road from his ancient kin. It is a great ending. The proof does not go that far. Mitochondrial DNA is a tiny part of all the DNA in a person. It passes down one line from a mother to her child. That makes it useful for tracking one thread through time. But each of us has a vast family tree. Go back a few hundred years, and the number of slots in that tree grows fast. Mitochondrial DNA follows just one thin path. Your mother, her mother, her mother, and so on. Here is the catch. One old thread is not the same as a full family tree. Cheddar Man's type is called U5B1. If someone living now shares that broad type, both lines may lead back to a shared mother far in the past. But the match does not tell us which old person sits in both trees. It does not prove that the person today came from Cheddar Man himself. The full genome adds one more twist. The museum says that about 10% of the roots in many people with long family ties in Britain can be linked to the broad group Cheddar Man came from. But those roots do not point to Cheddar Man alone. Much of that hunter share may have come back with later groups. Those groups had mixed with hunters in other parts of Europe before they reached Britain. So the link is real at the level of deep human roots. The tidy local family tale has not been proved. That fix does not make Cheddar Man less close to us. It trades a weak claim about one man's heirs for a stronger fact about how human roots move through time. Cheddar Man's DNA changed 3 pictures at once. It changed the likely face of people in Stone Age Britain. The traits that seemed strange to many viewers were part of a wider pattern in West Europe. It changed how we should look at a face built from old bones. Skull shape, gene tests flesh guides, and art do not all hold the same weight. The face has power because it makes the proof feel human. It does not remove every doubt. Notice how far the story has moved. We began with a bone hidden near one man's ear. We ended with whole groups moving across Europe. The DNA also changed the old idea of one long British family line. The past holds. Many groups, moves, meetings, and small acts of mixing. Farming did not reach the island as an idea alone. It came with a deep change in the people who lived there. Cheddar Man was not the first person in Britain. We cannot name one person alive, now as his known direct heir. What we gain is worth more than either myth. One man, found in cave mud, became one point in a far larger human move. A few scraps from the hardest bone in his body let a team test beliefs that had stood for far longer than he lived. The most honest view of Britain's past is not one face that never changes. It is a chain of people, moves, and lives brought back from scraps. Next, we will follow the small bone that made this work possible. We will see how. The petrous bone changed the hunt for old DNA around the world. Subscribe to Moonlit Archive for the proof behind history's best-known stories. The story continues in the next evidence file.